the left went to places that we all know are goofy. They don't fucking know that much. So don't like make pronouncements like you have a monopoly on the truth.
Why does that irritate you, Bill? Because
I don't like lying. Like you say, we don't want to pretend. Be a little fucking mysterious. You know, not everybody has to know your opinion on every fucking issue. Every kid you ever went to school with on Facebook, really? Just shut the fuck up. Everybody just shut the fuck up.
Bill, it's great to see you again.
Thanks, good to see you again.
Thank you so much for giving us your time. Listen, we'll get straight into it. I always think of you as kind of the classical Hollywood liberal. And in the last few years, maybe unfair characterization, but in the last few years, you really broken with the orthodoxy here. You made a joke on your last show when you first came back after writer strike, kind of like about not having any friends in Hollywood.
Only because he set me up for it, but it was perfect at that moment.
Yeah,
it was funny. I mean, they left me. I didn't leave them. I mean, I'm the same. That's what I'm always saying. It's like the left went to places that we all know are goofy. You know, and it's like I'm a comedian. I'm gonna make fun of funny. You know, if you do, I mean, Obama was a scorched earth policy for comedy. You know, which was great. He wasn't a buffoon, but I didn't.
Good for the country, bad for comedy.
Yeah, right. But that's not the case now with, you know, I mean, identity politics and victim culture and cancel culture, hostility to free speech. These are all great targets and worthy targets. And I, you know, was always willing to, people, I think, don't remember how much I was always willing to go after it on the left, but there just was less of it. Clinton wasn't an idiot either. I mean, they tried to get him out of office because of a blowjob. Whose side was I going to be on? Right? So, you know, things changed. I mean, was it Jonathan Haidt? Is he the one who wrote the book? And his theory, I think he got it right. It was like 2015. It was like Gen Z ascends or something. And like, we thought they were going to backlash to the millennials. It just got like 10 times worse. But it's like AI. It was exponential.
But the problem is, Bill, is that you look on comedy on TV, and with a few exceptions, one in particular being your show, it's got really toothless. And that's a dangerous place.
Well, I've gotten into trouble talking about this subject before, so I'm going to take a pass on this question.
Fair enough.
Because I'm friends with some of these guys. I certainly am an admirer of some of these guys and their talents. So, you know, I do think, I will just say, your basic premise is correct, that there is one that doesn't look anything like the others, but that's partly also because I'm not a celebrity-driven show. I'm not having on sitcom stars and just, that's, you know, what I'm doing here for Club Random more. No, I think we have great people here, but we don't necessarily talk politics. So they're doing, you know, broad vaudevillian shows. I'm doing a political show. I don't hardly ever have a celebrity. I mean, show business people, yes, sometimes at the beginning of the show we'll have an iconic, you know, Rod Stewart. How are you going to say no to that or something? But it's, you know, but most of the show is a panel with, I mean, you were on it. It's got to be people who are like super smart about what the fuck is going on in the world. That's not what those guys, so some of it is just built in. And then, you know, yeah, I mean, I have different takes on stuff. And, you know, it's, I tell you, there is a little too much like uniformity of opinion, premise, you know.
And I think that's one of the main problems with society at the moment, Bill, is that it does seem to be a uniformity of opinion, both on the left and the right, where we just put ourselves into tribes and are scared because we're in tribes to actually go, hang on, I don't agree with that.
Yeah, I may have told this story before, but like every year I look at writers' packets, you know, like see who's out there. And it's like this the lack of diversity of point of view. I mean, it's one thing to write the punchline, but like, what is your point of view about a subject? So I think what they had to do was write about the events of that week, see if they can write a monologue joke. And I think it was the week when Meloni took over in Italy.
Yeah.
And it was like uniformly, she's a fascist. Now, I know the family has fascist roots. I mean, this came up somewhere in conversation, and I said, well, if we go back, the Democrats were the party of slavery.
Right.
So like, everybody's got a past. So I don't know. I said, I don't follow Italian politics closely, but I'm just not like, like off the get-go gonna say, this lady's a fascist.
It's all one-dimensional, isn't it?
And that's what like every writer wrote based on the premise, like she's a fascist. I was like, okay. Yeah, that kind of stuff, like it just gets in the ether that this is the opinion to have, and people are lazy. They don't really, they want to seem knowledgeable but not really know anything.
Nobody wants to do the reading, you know what I mean? Everybody wants to be the college kid who turns up, who knows what they're talking about, but no one wants to go and read the books.
You see that nowhere more than what's, Israel. Whenever now that the war is on, they just do not understand the history of this conflict and, that land. And so it's just screaming at each other over, identity politics. It's tribalism.
But there was another thing too, Bill, which I think where you gained a lot of people's respect, not that you didn't have it already from many people, but there were a lot of new people, and you've talked about it recently about how there are conservatives now coming to see you live.
Yeah, mixed audiences.
Mixed, which is a great place to be.
Great.
But I think part of the reason is that you really made a break with what people thought was your team over COVID. You really made a break with them.
Absolutely. And other things, but you're right. I was very forthright. I didn't hold back with what I thought. I mean, I had already been cast as an anti-vaxxer, which it's almost impossible to deny that, because it's very much like the witch. If she floats, she's guilty. That thing. Like if I say I'm not an well, that's what an anti-vaxxer would say. It's just these people. You can't argue with people like that. So. But no, my view has always been pretty much the same. I always made a theme on real time from the beginning. In 2003, I remember arguing with Howard Dean, who was a doctor, in 2004 about medical, just taking that position of I'm not all in with Western medicine, and I think there's a lot of corruption, and I think there's just a lot we don't know. Those are my two big ones. Is like, is there corruption? Yes, we just found out with the Sackler family, for example, the people who make what was it, OxyContin, and I think they got fined $8 billion. I mean, that's, we know they're capable of being corrupt, for purposely hooking people on their hillbilly heroin, so we know they're capable of it. But even when they're not trying to be corrupt, I mean, I don't think they were trying to make a vaccine that then didn't prevent you from getting it. They, of course, wanted that to be the result. They came up with a vaccine, I think, that is very appropriate for people who are not in good health, and probably if you have it, your life was saved by something that could have killed you. But I don't fit that profile, so I shouldn't have had that.
Yeah,
I didn't.
Was that why you spoke up about it? Because you just felt it was a one-size-fits-all solution?
Correct. It's not scientific. It's not even. It shouldn't even be a political issue. It should be a medical issue. It's just medical. All of this stuff. So, yeah, I mean, I've certainly lost plenty of people, but those kind of people were never really gonna be completely happy with me, and they never were completely happy with me. They didn't like me about religion stuff.
But Bill, isn't the problem as well, and you've just alluded to it actually, is you said politics got involved. Now, all three of us sitting here.
COVID?
Yeah, with COVID,
yeah.
but with everything. Politics gets involved now with everything.
Yes.
Every decision you make, you just see, like a perfect example of this, Konstantin and I were in Amsterdam, and we saw, one of these, flamethrowers or flame jugglers, whatever it's called, And before he started his act,
A street performer.
a street performer, that's it. Before he started his act, he gave a 5-minute political lecture about the Dutch right-wing government. And I'm like,
And then he started juggling balls.
That's perfect.
you just
That's
go,
like-
even with someone like this, I still get politics rammed down my throat. I mean, that's the
Right.
problem, isn't it?
That is certainly one of the problems. It's a theme also in my stand-up act now at the end when I'm talking about how we can't go the Marjorie Taylor Greene, we need a national divorce route. We can't. We cannot get divorced, even if we want to. It's just not practical. It's stupid. So we have to learn to, yes, get along and just live side by side with assholes you can't stand, and you know. And part of that is just not always talking about politics. We never used to do that when I was a kid. Parents and saw them with their friends, and it was almost considered impolite.
Yeah.
Politics and religion. So you didn't know that you hated this guy, you know, right? You didn't, you know, he was just your neighbor, and they got along great. And you know, don't share everything would be one of my big pieces of advice. Be a little fucking mysterious. You know, not everybody has to know your opinion on every fucking issue. Every kid you ever went to school with on Facebook, really? They have to know what you think about ivermectin? Just shut the fuck up. Everybody just shut the fuck up about politics 24/7, and otherwise we're always going to be this, because is anybody ever convinced of anything?
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, we can't even agree what men and women are anymore. So if we can't agree with that about that, then how are we going to agree on something like Israel, which is a very, very serious, complex issue?
well, you can tell the women from the men in my hut. I don't know what you're doing, man.
Well, we're more
That is
progressive.
not a problem. No, I know. I mean, it's easy to say. Of course we do, but yeah, I mean, that's one of those issues. But to me, it's always like, if we weren't crazy and completely political, like you say, and always partisan about everything, we could just agree, okay, some people are trans. So their gender thoughts don't match with their gender equipment. Of course. And also some of it's trendy. But nobody wants to like get on that obviously true center position. I'm not saying it just because it's taking from both sides, because it's actually true. Some of it is trendy, and it's also a real thing that should be protected. Really, nobody could like run on that kind of shit. There's nobody out there who could like fucking just take all the issues and kind of do that. The border, you know, like, yes, we need to just not have a one size fits all. And also, we're not going to bomb them. It's like everyone just goes to what's nuttier.
Isn't it weird? Like, it's either like trans women are women, doesn't matter if they have a penis. Or on the other hand, it's like women need to go back in the kitchen. Isn't there some kind of middle ground there?
I just feel like we talk about these issues on this kind of show and all over the news and ever so much. And it's just a very small, not that they shouldn't be respected, but it's just a very small, it reminds me of Albert Brooks once said, like, TV, it's like every show is about a private detective. If you look in the phone book, there's only 2 real private detectives.
Yeah. I know what you mean, and I get frustrated talking about some of the stuff because a lot of it isn't that interesting. It really isn't. A lot of these things.
You mean the
trans thing
right.
and all this other stuff, because as you said, we all know what the fucking truth is, right? And all of these political posturing positions are insane. However, I do think that, you know, the idea of truth is really important.
Very.
And so what bothers me is people making me pretend
Right.
that things that are blatantly false are not. Like the emperor's naked and he's got his dick out.
No, you said it very well, making me pretend. That's what like a lot of the people who watch shows like yours and mine like about what we do is it's just that protestation. Don't make me pretend. Like there's just a lot of pretending because the far left woke people are so intimidating. They have crazy, stupid ideas about a lot of stuff, but they're really good at media, and people are just intimidated that the mean girls of Twitter will destroy you. So you can just be really out there with whatever you say, woke-wise, and even the people who know better will just, it's going to let that one pass. Too dangerous, you know. And so that's how you get a lot of the stuff that, like you say, we don't want to pretend.
No.
I mean, I don't want to pretend that, women and men in sports or anything comparable. I mean, if the worst NBA team played the best WNBA team, the score would be 1,000,000-0.
Yeah.
That's no insult to women. It's just the way it is.
Yeah.
And to make me pretend.
Why does that irritate you, Bill? Because
I don't like lying.
Well, see,
I just don't bullshit me. You can. I have tons of friends on both sides, even far woke, far Trump, whatever. As long as you're sincere, but don't fucking lie to me.
Yeah.
And you know the other thing as well, Bill, that I feel it a lot is just fucking leave me alone. You know, that I got that more than ever with COVID, where it just felt that it was almost a reason for the government to stick their little finger into your life and also incentivize other people to do it as well.
Well, I think a lot of people in government and the medical community, they sincerely believe they're doing the right thing. They're, safetyism. They see safety, which is the short-term good of lockdowns and masks and mandates and all that kind of stuff. I mean, first of all, they may not be right about the efficacy of the vaccine, but as far as safety, they think they're doing the right thing. But they're in the system. It's that kind of thing where, do you really know you slowly just fall into the groupthink of, okay, this is how we handle the problem, lockdown, vaccine. Not that vaccines, are to me a tool that I'm very glad we have, but I should get to pick whether I want or not based on the pathogen and my situation. And there could be something that comes along where I would be the first online. Vaccines generally work,
Bill, I want to come back to this conversation about lying because it's interesting to me. I really respect your work. As one of the reasons is I've always been more interested in satire than comedy. And you, at your best, I think, are satirical in that you are talking about political issues. You're making fun of both sides very often. And I think that really is the job of people like you is to point out where the hypocrisies are, where the lack of truth is, etc. But not many people are now doing that with comedy, it feels like.
Well, they do it on one side, but they pause when it comes down to saying something that's going to make their completely liberal audience disapprove. They take the path of least resistance when it comes to stuff on the left that is worthy of making fun of, because the audience doesn't want to hear that. Or they really believe it. I mean, it's more by omission, I mean, they'll do Biden jokes about his age or something like that, which is fairly anodyne, but you never really are in question about what the take, what the point of view is.
That's the point. The point of view.
Yeah.
It's so important, and it's so important that the point of view is not boring. the point of view is not the same as everybody else's point of view.
My friend calls it "let me guess" policy. It's brilliant, and it let me guess, and it's always, and I'm not ever let me guess.
That's so uninteresting, isn't it?
And they just won't. Like, I remember there was this about 2 years ago, shooter, some nut, mass shooting in, I think, Atlanta, and he killed a bunch of Asian people because they ran massage parlors. Do you remember this case?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. And I read the stories, and it was clear by the end of the week, and I said on the air, it's not what the media is saying, that he wasn't mad at Asians. He was mad at people who were jerking him off because he was a Christian. Everybody in his life said it. The FBI said it. And the other people would not move off this narrative. And that's the difference between truth and narrative. It's like the narrative is, it's part of this giant anti-Asian crime wave. And I'm sure there are horrific crimes that are, committed against Asians as they are against other peoples, and we should stop them all. But this was not one of them. They just, they just shoved this fucking thing, hole that doesn't fit. Get in there, get the fuck. And it's like closing a suitcase, and I hate that shit.
I think we all do, because what it puts us in, Bill, is in a really dangerous position where we stop believing what we've been told in the news and newspapers. And once that happens, you're like I said, you're in a really dangerous situation, because people go, this is all fake, this is all fake. So when the next pandemic comes along, for example, as it will do, or there's some other type of emergency, you're just going to get whole swathes of people going, I don't believe any of this.
Well, the CDC has already lost a lot of credibility. I mean, I think they all did when, people lived through it. So they remember, oh, yeah, I remember washing the mail for 6 months for no fucking reason. Washing the mail, really? So, again, my big theme, they don't fucking know that much. So don't make pronouncements like you have a monopoly on the truth. It's so anti-science that people are like, follow the science. It can be so anti-science.
That's so true.
Yeah.
That's so true. And Bill, did you see this coming? Because I remember
COVID?
No,
No, I did
Mate,
not.
he was there. He was there in China.
in the lab. Just
I did not see it coming.
No, I don't mean this. I mean the culture. I mean where we are now as a society.
No.
But I do remember your stand-up from way back when, talking about how we now prioritize feelings over truth and all of this stuff.
No, I mean, my first show was called Politically Incorrect.
Right.
Yeah.
That was 30 years ago.
Right.
Yeah.
I definitely recognized it as political correctness, which I was asked a lot because I named the show that. It was like, what does that mean to you? The elevation of sensitivity over truth, I think, was one of my big answers. And just the opposite of, when someone is political, it means they're full of shit, usually. I was very political about it. Politically incorrect was, let's just say what it is. So I did see that it was a problem 30 years ago.
Yeah.
It just got worse. I mean, I tried to put a stake in its heart, and it obviously
Just made it.
Yeah.
especially with the internet, but also the generations. I mean, we just keep making each generation is more fragile.
Yeah.
If you can believe it, they said that about my generation.
Yep.
From the World War II, people were like, these boomer kids are so spoiled. Why we don't even beat them every night. When I think of how idyllic I think my childhood was, but also so different than kids today, and not coddled nearly as much.
No. But you know what I was thinking about political correctness? 30 years ago, it wasn't really the same people doing it. Like my heroes growing up, it was George Carlin and Bill Hicks, and these people would, and you were also talking about religion, because it was the Christian right,
Right.
who wanted to shut people like you down.
Oh, yeah.
They wanted you not to be able to joke about religion.
No, that's
And now it isn't them really leading the charge. I know they exist. I know they're out there. I know they don't like you joking about religion, but they're not the driving force behind political correctness in 2023. Would you agree with
no,
that?
of course. That's again, that's my fucking defense when people are like, "Well, you've changed." No, they changed. Like, every issue I could do that with. We're like, this is old school liberal and this is woke. Like, I noticed we have completely given up on the idea that the thing to do if you're overweight is diet and exercise, which was like bedrock. I mean, it was Michelle Obama. Michelle Obama we loved her for that. She took perfect message, first lady. Now that's like, I mean, you never read in the New York Times that, like that. No. It's just in fact, we don't know really why. I mean, they're kind of on that page, but we have Ozempic, and once again, it's a pharmaceutical solution. I'm not saying that's a giant conspiracy. I'm saying drug makers are not in the business of healing humanity. They're in the business of selling drugs. They do it by healing humanity a lot. I mean, I'm glad we have pharmaceutical companies. I mean, we need their shit sometimes, and they've done a lot of great things, but they want to sell drugs.
Do you think yeah, it's true.
They're gonna, if they have one that can make you lose weight, they'll sell it to you. And they're not, are they sure about side effects or what the real health repercussion? I think we're kind of like, I mean, they don't know why it works. You know that?
No.
They have no idea why it works. They know that it works, not why, not a clue. So wouldn't that give you pause?
It would do, yeah.
Okay, so again, like, this is where liberalism was 10 years ago, and this is where it is now.
Bill, do you think sometimes the problem is every time that we come to America, it's...
That's the problem.
Yeah, that is a problem. It's
Every
when
time
we come to America,
it gets worse.
yeah.
Right.
But it's a culture built around consumerism and ease, making everything as easy as possible and comfort.
So is yours.
Yeah, I'm not, well, have you ever experienced our customer service?
It's not about comfort.
Like ours is genius.
Yeah.
I mean,
But do you see what I mean?
About England?
No, about the US. It's that everything is about making things as easy as possible. And if you do that...
but I think that's a lot of countries now. Yeah. Because, I mean, England became America.
Yeah, we import your culture.
I mean, I remember being in England first time in the 80s, and it was very different.
Yeah.
Very different.
How so?
Well, first of all, London was like all white.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was.
So can we just celebrate that victory, that we made a place more diverse and not, you never get a pat on the back.
No.
The people who achieve, I feel like, in that area. There's only there's more to do. Of course there's more to do. But can we just get a little, hey, I think I read in Andrew Sullivan's column, London went from 36% to 86% people of color, or something like that. No, maybe that's too high, but something
majority
like a
minority.
50-point swing, 50 points in 2 generations, 3 generations. Okay, that's progress. I'm not a bad person to clap for progress.
But that is an issue. That is a real issue, Bill. Because people never want to admit when things are going well. And if you only start going, oh, everything's terrible, then you start convincing everybody else that everything's terrible when it's not.
I mean, you say people. I feel like this is something that divides the two parties. I feel like Republicans are too peppy about America and very sentimental about America, and think things are better, racially. I think they're in denial about racism, which is still a thing, and the left is over exaggerating it. They're so down on America. And it's, by the way, something immigrants don't like about the left.
I hate that about them.
Right, I know, I know you do.
With a
That
passion.
people who work so hard to get here, and then all you do is hear what a shithole it is. And also, it's just, again, factually wrong, because we can know what's going on in other countries. And again, these people who do not know things like this, but it does not in the least deter them from tweeting and talking and saying things. And I mean, I've seen these funny videos where they, men on the street with, 20-year-old kids and like, I'd like to live anywhere but here. Really? What do you know about Somalia? What do you know about Karachi, Pakistan? I see this porn star was very pro-Palestine.
Yeah.
Mia Khalifa.
Yeah.
And try practicing porn in Gaza would be my advice.
See that quiz for Palestine?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Is that on a T-shirt?
It was a flag. There was a bunch of people
Right.
holding up a flag saying "Queers for Palestine."
I think I've seen that on a T-shirt.
Yeah.
And try walking down the street with that. I could name a lot of places in the world.
Do you think we're victims of our own success in the West?
Yes,
We're so comfortable,
exactly.
so wealthy,
That's
so
what it is.
so genuine. I mean, Francis makes this point always. It's a
Absolutely.
great point. The biggest privilege any of us enjoy is first world privilege. That's the privilege.
Yeah, I say very similar things about the people who just go on and on about privilege. Don't realize that they're always being propped up by the privilege of being impractical, loose thinking, and you're just like head in the clouds, which is a great privilege to be.
Right.
Yeah.
But that's ironic.
It is.
We'll be back with our guest in a minute. But first, we want to take a moment to talk about our partners, GiveSendGo.
GiveSendGo is a leading crowdfunding website where thousands of people around the world raise funds for business ventures, medical expenses, personal needs, non-profits, churches, and funeral costs. On GiveSendGo, you can raise money for whatever you need.
We've met the people at GiveSendGo, and we can tell you that they're absolutely aligned with TRIGGERnometry on our approach to free speech. They don't just talk the talk, they walk the walk, unlike other big tech companies.
They, like us, believe that with openness and honesty will create more understanding and ultimately more harmony in the world.
GiveSendGo is absolutely free to use. With other crowdfunding sites, you'll pay between 5 and 10% of the money you raise. GiveSendGo charge no money at all to use their platform. They believe you should be able to keep all the money you raise.
On GiveSendGo, you can choose to raise funds for short or long-term campaigns, whether you're in the USA, UK, Australia, or anywhere in the world.
GiveSendGo supports freedom of speech. They won't cave to the mob, and that's why we are proud to partner with them.
Starting a campaign on GiveSendGo is easy and intuitive. Go to GiveSendGo.com today, start raising money for whatever's important to you, and support the people who support freedom.
Now, back to the interview.
Are you hopeful for America, Bill?
Well, I ain't going anywhere, so yeah. And, I mean, I am.
Karachi?
No.
I am
What
like-
about Mogadishu?
I am amazed a little bit. I am amazed a little bit that we take, man, this country, we take a licking and we keep on fucking ticking.
Yeah.
Really, we keep on ticking. I mean, I thought the pandemic with that kind of spending and keeping people home would take us down. No, Trump. I can't believe we survived Trump. Are you guys Trumpers?
No.
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 However, I will ask you this because it's interesting to me. I did not like him. His personality is obnoxious. I didn't like it.
Among other things. Yes.
But this is what I want to ask you, right? Because I don't know enough about American politics to say whether his policies were good.
Really?
I don't, honestly.
Oh, please.
I don't.
Why are you suddenly pleading ignorance on this? This is what you do.
No, hold on. Well, let's break it down, right? So, was his policy on the border better or worse than Joe Biden?
Looks like it's the same now. Because
Right.
Biden's building the wall.
At least he was trying, right? I mean, Biden's just letting people in like crazy. Right?
Yeah, I mean, I never thought a wall was a terribly practical solution because people have thought of it before, and there's just a lot of like things obviously he couldn't get through. Obviously he couldn't get it through. So that's how hard it is. You know, it's private land, or you just can't build a unporous border. Look, if the Republicans were serious about wanting to stop immigration, what they would do is they would crack down on the hiring. But they don't want to because they want the cheap labor. So they want to pretend that they are stopping people from coming in and they don't like people coming in, but they like it. Drives down wages, and they could do that. You could crack down on that end of it.
Okay.
But that doesn't happen. Nobody's going through the kitchen and yelling, immigration!
From my perspective, it doesn't seem like Biden is better than Trump on that. When I look at the international situation, I mean, the American respect for America is breaking down around the world. That's why you see all these conflicts.
Well, they say that every year.
Well, we see more conflicts every year.
Are you kidding? We're fucking kicking ass. We came back better from the pandemic economically than any other big boy country. I don't know how we do it, but if you look at like the stock market from like 1990 to now, like if you had your money in American stocks, like 3-4 times better than anywhere else.
I'm talking about
No, but it matters.
I mean, of course it matters.
You know,
no, you're right.
I mean, the dollar is nobody's really even pretending that they could like replace the dollar or would want to. I mean, with our kind of debt, I mean, at some point, is some of this going to come crashing down? It absolutely could. But I don't know. Like we just keep on ticking. I'm surprised that with all the shit going on. But
America's a great country, but what I'm trying to get at with you, it is a great country.
no, I'm not Mr. Rah-Rah. I'm just saying these are the facts. The biggest, like 5 biggest tech companies in the world, I think, are all American.
Of
I mean,
course.
now China has, you know, some things that we don't, but our military is still like there's nobody even close.
I couldn't agree with you more.
I'm just saying. So
I'm Team America. I am.
No, this isn't about bragging about America. This is just factually like where we are. Let's not be.
100%.
Let's not have the wrong idea in our head about where our exact place in the world is. We're taking on water, but for some reason we're not sinking.
I'm just trying to get to the question, which is you said something, which is very interesting to me. You're a smart guy. You're a nuanced thinker, but you said we survived Trump, and that surprised you.
Totally.
What is it
Are
about?
you kidding?
So give people.
Because he's crazy. First of all, he's stupid and he's crazy.
Is he stupid, Bill?
So
he can't be.
He thought
stupid.
Frederick Douglass was alive. Are you kidding? Yes, he's stupid. He has a Hitlerian ability to move crowds.
Okay.
Often with the same sort of thoughts about you're cheated and the soil and you know, all this shit. Obviously, he never went where Hitler went. I'm not comparing him with Hitler in that way, but just as a insane, but that also made him genius politician who can move people and just owns fucking people, just like owns them. And that's his talent. But is he stupid? Yes. And he's fucking crazy.
But aren't those two things in Congress that you've just said? That
yeah.
he's a politician of genius and he's stupid.
Politician.
Yeah, of genius. But
yes.
But
That's the only genius he is. Politically, he's a genius.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't even think about it. It just comes out of his id. And that works for people. Even though he's the most full of shit guy, he also is like the most honest. Like when he says shithole countries, like lots of immigrants are like, yeah, that's exactly where I came from. Why do you think I fucking walked 1,000 miles to get here? Because I was in a shithole. And this guy doesn't mince words. And because he almost, he can't help himself. He reveals himself. It's insanity photographs. What can I tell you? So he's mesmerizing to the media too. So he gets all that coverage. But yes, am I surprised we survived? And we really haven't yet, because he still hasn't conceded that election.
Well, that's why I'm
Yeah.
asking.
Just the idea of a guy who doesn't concede elections. Okay, you guys should stop worrying about all these other little. That's it. That's the ball game. If the guy doesn't concede elections,
Did Hillary concede elections?
of course Hillary conceded.
She said he's an illegitimate president.
When did she say that?
She said that in 2016. She said he knows he is an illegitimate president.
I believe he knows he's an illegitimate president. He knows that there were a bunch of different reasons why the election turned out the way it did. And I take responsibility for those parts of it that I should. And so I know that he knows that this wasn't on the level. I don't know that we'll ever know everything that happened, but clearly we know a lot and are learning more every day. And history will probably sort it all out. So of course he's obsessed with me. And I believe that it's a guilty conscience in so much as he has a conscience.
After the election.
Yeah. Russia collusion, what was that if not denying the election? They made up a story, which was a hoax.
Well, it wasn't a hoax.
Yeah, it was. It
Well,
wasn't
just
true.
what wasn't true? What part
The
of it?
Russia collusion, the idea that
There was collusion with Russia.
the idea
There
that
was absolute collusion with Russia.
Is that why he won the election? Do you think?
Partly. It was a very close election. Yeah, you don't think Russia could sway 77,000 votes in 3 states? Of course they could. And they did. Partly through social media, partly for their propaganda there and what they were trying to do there, which was very successful, cost about $100,000. And then, Trump's campaign manager was trading campaign data with a GRU.
I think what Trump was saying is completely wrong. I agree. But
There was
But the
collusion.
Democrats also denied the election in 2016. They did.
Okay, maybe one time Hillary said something like that. You ask her today, this is not an issue for the Democrats. You're making a ridiculously false
You think?
comparison. Of course. Democrats are not the ones who deny elections. Hillary got up there in her fucking purple suit and said, we lost. Al Gore did it, took one for the fucking team
Agreed.
in 2000.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed.
It's just a ridiculous false comparison.
Analogy. False comparison.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So looking at Trump, and let's look at on a global scale, like we were talking about before. If you look at what with Biden when he's come to power, there has been the Russian invasion of Ukraine. There has been the disastrous withdrawal from Afghanistan. And you've also as well got, Bill, now this situation flaring up. And some people would say the argument that they put forward is this is all happening because Biden is a weak leader. People have seen that and are using that opportunity to then pursue their own ends.
Well, whenever I hear something like the disastrous withdrawal from Afghanistan, it's just like, oh, right-wing talking point. Not that it's not true. It is true, but it's like, really give a shit. Should they have handled it better? Absolutely. I'm not sure America ever handles anything well. We're just a fuck-up country now in a lot of ways. I don't know if any president under any conditions, but this one finally said, let's get the fuck out of here. This is a crazy thing to be here forever. We're here 20 years. We just got to go. It's probably going to be shitty no matter how we do it. Now, if Mitt Romney was president, would it have gone better? Yeah, I bet it would. Because Mitt Romney was much more of a detail, he tried to cast himself as a conservative, real hard right guy when he ran. He was a manager of detail. He was a Mormon, couldn't be a nicer guy. Could he have, yeah, he might have been the guy who stayed up looking over the plans and the data at 4 a.m. Clinton was that guy. People who really like government want to make it work well. Biden's not that guy.
Yeah.
He didn't do that with Afghanistan. But it's just so reflexive. Here's something we can hate about this guy who we want to talk bad about. I'm not on that page. That's a little too, just one-sided for me. Do I love everything with Joe Biden? Absolutely not. Last week I called for him to not run again. Ruth Bader Biden, I would call.
You think he's too old?
I think the country does, and that's all that matters.
Yeah.
And he will not win. He'll look terrible in the debates, and Trump will win, and that will be a disaster. And there should be no discussion after he does not concede elections. Yes, Stacey Abrams also said something about, this is like, yes, you can always make some case on the other side. It has nothing to do with a guy who was president, never advertised he was never going to concede an election. Didn't, still doesn't, will do it again. That's nothing is on that level. If that is where you are, I don't care what his fucking policy on Turkmenistan is.
Yeah.
I hear you.
You're disqualified.
Democracy relies on losers' consent.
Correct. It's what we have over the other countries. That so many other countries in the world can't get that one thing right.
Yeah.
Like the old Soviet days used to always see like they would check like who was standing closest to the coffin, and that was usually the guy who knocked off the guy before him, or who was going to be next, and it wasn't done through a system. It was like who's just going to it was Survivor.
Yeah.
And then it was Brezhnev, okay, and then he got to be. That's not the way we did it, and this guy wants to bring that to here.
Yeah, that doesn't work. Do
No,
you think one of the distinctions as well is what happened on January the 6th, right? Because whatever the Democrats may have said, that never happened. That it was just a different level, people physically going into the Capitol. And
it's not what Trump said on that day. It wasn't like he got up there and said, go and take over the Capitol. Kind of, but not totally. It was that up until that moment, he still hadn't conceded.
Yeah.
It was it's not one moment. It was like his whole view that he was telling his people that this, and when you do this against what Republican vote counters were telling him,
Do you think?
that's bending over backwards.
Yeah.
Even the Republicans told him, his own people.
Yeah.
And the decent people who are Republicans in many states, all these states where lawsuits were, this was laughed out of court like 60 times or something. And they still tried to peddle that bull. That is just unacceptable. Don't come to me with and Trump did this. No.
That's fair enough, Bill. And do you think in 2024, do you think he's gonna win the nomination? Do you think he's gonna go the whole way?
There's no doubt he'll be the nominee, and he very well could win. And then we would be, I believe, governed by him under house arrest at Mar-a-Lago. That's probably where he will be, and he will run the country from Mar-a-Lago. They will never put him in jail, but he will be convicted, at least in one of these trials. And then he will be, it'll be like in Goodfellas where they smuggle in a salami. He's got
Cooking
wine.
the tomatoes.
They're wearing tracksuits. This is not going to be some Jeffrey Epstein jail cell. He'll probably be house arrest at Mar-a-Lago. That is where that's the final, and then AI takes over in that work. I honestly, with AI, don't think we'll make it through the decade.
You've been reading about that.
I got Tristan Harris on Real Time Friday, and we're going to talk about it, and I have been reading about it, and it's super frightening, but I got to go back to my day job.
Bill, what a pleasure. It's been great.
Such a pleasure.
Yeah.
I appreciate you guys
Thank you.
coming in. I love what you do. I feel like this stern talking to tonight was well in order. I hope to see it reflected in your show in the future. All right, best of luck, folks.
Thanks, Bill.